Okay, this is something that I've been experimenting with just for a little while. I've got enough files and filters and combos to last a lifetime, but everything's pretty much in order. So what wanted to do was start thinking of practical ways that we can apply some of these techniques using the tools that I am using in HGSI and other tools for that matter. But what I decided to do this week and what I'm planning to do in the future is come up with certain techniques that hopefully will cut down upon processing or prospecting time and give us a good list of candidates. So I decided this week that I'm going to use a Woodward and Brown Smart Group that I created, oh, I don't know how many years ago. I lost track of the years, probably 10 at least. It's the Woodward and Brown Leaders Raw Relative Strength Raw Group combo. It's based on a combo, and the combo that is used, I'm going to just bring the combos up and type in raw, and it'll take me to the W&B Smart Group combos, and I will edit this and show you what's in here. It is weighted evenly between the extension from the 200-day moving average, the extension above the 50-day moving average. These are both above the 50-day moving average, raw relative strength, and raw group rank. Now, when I created this, I was looking for a way to find the strength in the market, and I thought the top 100 would really be a good sampling. And also, during the webinar or the seminars that we used to do in California, we were looking for leadership stocks that may, when they turn, the market may turn. But that's a highly selective thing because, as we all know, there's rotation into different groups and so on. So there are no ideal ways to find when rotation is beginning. But this view has really, or this smart group has proven to be a good smart group, and I think you're really going to see that as I go through this today. Now, let me explain for the newbies, and there are some new people in here, and they'll be watching this video too, what relative strength is and what group strength is, because I'm weighting those at 25% apiece. And if you look at my end of day, now you will find this view if you update your add-on under momentum scans. It's number 12. It's leaders, raw relative strength, raw group, smart group. And what that does is it goes directly to the smart group every day. And I am essentially looking for common stocks. I'm eliminating class stocks and close-in funds on this, looking for common stocks only. Occasionally there will be a class stock in here, but I want to be focused on the common stocks only that are generally assigned to groups. So it goes directly to that smart group, and that's what's going to appear in your view. So that's pretty handy. You don't have to go in to the designer and look it up under Ian Woodward and Ron Brown. That's one of the another of the very nice features in HGSI. You can go directly to the group. So this is what I'm working with today. This is what this webinar will be about. And once again, I want to point out that it's number 12 in the momentum scans, both in the end of day and also in the intraday. Now, I'm going to, well, I did just switch to intraday right now so you can see what's going on. Now you can see that Shot Spotter is on top today. It's up 9.5%. Followed by Avid Bioservices, Viking Therapeutics, Tandem Diabetes, which has been coming up a lot. And this is the list as I'm letting this update automatically. This is, here, let me do the raw combo again. This is the list using my effort versus result combo. And let me show you that quickly if you're new to this. This is weighted on the intraday fields. And this is being driven by Thinkorswim. Intraday volume, the percent volume divided by the 90-day volume. I use 90-day volume because all VPA flags are generated with 90-day volume. The intraday one-day change and the intraday range, those are weighted equally. And what that does is it does a great job of bringing the strongest stocks to the top. And if I click over here on the far left and go to the bottom, you can see the weak stocks for the day are down at the bottom. Now to get back to the top, I just click here again. This is as of 3:04 p.m. today. Now I'm going to bring up, I did some Snagit captures this morning. Let me get these. This is at 9:35, 5 minutes after the market opened. Like you can see, live person was up here. Cardix. I'm looking to see if I don't see shot. Oh, here. Okay, this is 5 minutes later at 9:40. You can see that ShotSpotter is now at number 5. And let's go to the current one here, or not the current one. This was at 11:05. ShotSpotter was coming in at number 2 at that time. Let's see what the gain was. 6.75. Let me go back to this one. ShotSpotter at this point was up 1.53. So you can see that it's moved up sharply throughout the day. Let me just bring this chart up here. This is it. This is the opening today. You can see there's an effort to rise today on heavy volume, and the symbol or the flag is in here. It's over here. So it opened sharply. Well, it opened flat, actually, I'm sorry, and it moved up very quickly. And I noticed that it was moving up this morning. Unfortunately, I didn't jump aboard, but these things happen all the time. Now, we're in a market right now which looks like it's continuing to fail. And these stocks are actually holding up quite well. The leaders that are at the top, anything with green numbers obviously is positive for the day. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to show you some things that I don't expect you to do, but it'll prove to you that this is a pretty good way to prospect. I'm going to save these 100 stocks. Let's see. Save list as. I'm going to save it into a directory. I just put it in my EdgeRater directory. You can put it anywhere if you want to follow this process, but you certainly don't need to. What I'm doing is I'm saving these symbols as a list file. Okay, and then I'm going to go into my filters. And if you look up here at the top under my name and you scroll down to the bottom, first of all, look at the group inclusion report filters. That's what I call these that I experiment with. And if you move down to the symbol list, raw RS, raw group rank combo. I put this in here this morning so you could find it easily, but I also created a couple of filters down here in my user filters just because they're more accessible. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this filter. And like I said, you don't have to do this. There's no reason for you to do it. I am just showing you that you can do it. But I'm going to clear this filter, and then I'm going to load the list. Here is the list file that I just saved. I'm going to open that, and it's going to put the symbols in this filter. And you may be wondering why I'm going to do it, or why I'm doing this. It's because I want to look at this list of stocks that are currently in here, and I want to see how many times these stocks have appeared historically this year. So I will go to the designer, and I will click on this arrow here. This is taking a while because I already had these loaded and I forgot to clear them. Let me clear everything here. And I'm going to go to the history. I drag this file down every day to the non-index groups. So I have the top 100 raw combo stocks in here, and I have all of the months in here. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to click on Check Children. Now you don't have to remember these steps, just watch. So I am applying this filter that I just populated, and I'm running it against these stocks. And when I click on OK, an HTML page is generated, and if I scroll down here, I can see that QRE has appeared 118 times since the beginning of the year, and it started appearing on January 1st. And it looks like it was in here till July 13th, and then it fell off, and then it reappeared today. Now let's look at some more of these. Here's Egan. This is a name that's been coming up. This started appearing in February 116 times in this group. Here is Medifast 116 times. Here's ECYT Indicite 110 times, and so on. So here's a great stock that has been doing very well. Tandem has appeared 104 times. It started appearing back in April, and it's appeared many times in August, as you can see. So these stocks have a tendency to stay for a long time. Now, I forgot to explain something for the newbies. I was going to explain what relative strength and group strength are that are bringing these to the top. So why don't I do that right now, or right after I show you that if you scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see stocks that are just starting to appear in this group. Here are a couple that just appeared today, G, KOS, and WK. But the ones on top, when you do use this technique, are going to appear multiple times. They have consistency. Now let me go back here, and I'll use a shot spotter as an example. Just make it full screen. And relative strength, or the RS rank, is based upon 1 year. And it's 40% of that ranking. Let's see if I can bring up a frame here. Is based upon the last 3 months. Okay? And then the other 60% is based upon the prior 3 quarters, distributed 20%, 20%, and 20%. But this constitutes 40% of the ranking. Now, a group rank, the other part of that combo, is based upon a 6-month period. I believe that's 6 months. And half of that weighting is on the last 3 months. So by using this combo, what the combo is doing, it is selecting stocks that are showing strong relative strength, strong group strength, and stocks that are extended from their 50 and 200-day moving averages. So if I just go up and look at this chart here, this is the 200-day and this is the 50-day right here. So when those characteristics are met, then the top 100 stocks that come closest to meeting that are included in the group. And the group does change somewhat daily. As you can see, stocks drop out and they drop back in. I showed you on that HTML that some stocks or one stock came and went. It happens all the time. But generally, you're going to have a very good list of stocks to prospect with. Now, just out of curiosity, you can see that even though the market is pretty weak today, that almost 60% of these high relative strength stocks are up for the day, and well, 59% are up and 41% are down. But what I really wanted to look at was the industry. And you can see, you can get a snapshot here of what's in this group every day just by looking at the spectrum analyzer. And you can see that this is dominated by application software, medical equipment, medical devices, biotech, and so on down the list. Then you get down here, there's number ones and number twos, but generally you're going to find the strong group strength, or you're going to find groups of stocks that are stronger than others, and they're just going to float in and out of this view. Okay, I'm looking at my list. All right, now let's do something. I think you'll find this interesting. I'm going to take this shot spotter, and rather than using that HTML that I used before, I'm going to just do individual stocks. So let's do SSTI, and you can use these filters up here, but I'm just going to go down to the bottom to my user filters just so I can find them easier. I just drag them down here. I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to type in SSTI. And I will click on that, and we'll isolate on that one. And now I'm going to go in and run this just with a single symbol rather than all 100 symbols. And I'm running it against all of these groups. You can see that I'm using the user applied filter symbol. And this stock, get some of this other stuff out of the way, started appearing back on 3/12. So let's take a look at it. Looking at 3/12. Now this is, I put this on my intraday warehouse view. I put these fields in here. I like to see what's going on, and I updated this chart. You'll have the same thing. If you don't like that there, you can get rid of it. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the current view. It's called the intraday warehouse fields. And I'm going to move it from the lower left to the lower right, just to get it out of the way. So it quickly moves over here, and I still get the information, but it's not blocking what I'm doing here. Okay, I need to get to the, did I lose my, okay. Here's what I'm looking for, 312. So let's go back to 312 and see when it first started appearing. This is why I keep the history of certain groups in the Insider Club files, and I said 312. So that would be 312 right here. If you look down in the lower left corner where my mouse is, it says 312, which would be here, and it was trading for approximately $22 at that time. And you can see that it appeared on the 12th, the 14th, the 15th. There was an effort to rise and a volume spike. And then there was a test for supply or no supply. And then it just kept going up, and then it leveled off, and it consolidated for a while. But there were multiple entry signals back here in March. And then when we move into April, you can see that it stayed in the list until, well, it was in the list all through April, wasn't it, pretty much? Here's April 2nd, 3rd through the 30th. So even when it was correcting, or consolidating, I should say, this really isn't a correction, it was consolidating. During this time period, it still remained within the top 100 stocks. Okay, now that just updated and shifted over here, but that's all right. So let's go down here. It stayed in there throughout May and June. Wow, this thing has been in here for quite some time. So it stayed throughout May and June, and then it started moving up again. You can see there were multiple VPA entry flags, pulled back again. Let me go to a different chart here. I'm going to go to number 6 because it has a group line in it. I want to move that over. Okay. So as the group was going up, it was going up. It pulled back with the group, rose with the group, held steady while the group dipped a little bit. And then over here, it sold off hard. But then it reversed itself when the group pulled back a little bit, but this stock happened to sell off really hard here. Then here's a reversal signal right here, and it has rallied strongly off of this. Let's look at this period right here. This is the middle of August 13th, it looks like. And you can see that this stock stayed in the top 100 leaders, even though it fell hard from around 49 down to 40. But it was still making the grade. The thing is, those rankings, the group rank and the relative strength rank, because they're extended over 3 months and 6 months and even a year for raw relative strength, they don't change that quickly. So you're going to have to manage your stocks. I mean, obviously, if you had this run up here, you'd like to have a trailing stop and get stopped out of here. But this stock, by being in here, and if you use these prospecting techniques that I'm going to show you, you're going to catch these stocks when they start to move again. So this appeared, let's see, what was the date right here? This is Friday on August 17th that this strength seen returning after a downtrend appeared. You can see that the selling was leveling off here, and then there was a bullish reversal, a hammer. It's not quite a hammer, but it's close enough, and it generated a VPA flag on this heavier volume. There were some heavy volume days to the downside, as you would expect with these efforts to fall, but then there were two strong up days on volume with these green volume bars here as the stock reversed, and it really has not looked back. Now this stock, if you look at it here, look at the move. Most people probably won't even look at this stock, but there are opportunities. You don't have to trade high volume liquid stocks all the time. This has a 90-day moving average volume of only 166,000 shares per day on average. And you're going to find these stocks in this list. You're going to find a lot of names that you're not familiar with is what you're going to find. Okay, so that's just one example. Let's do one more of these, and then I'll move on to other things that I want to show you. Okay. So I'll take this filter off. Let's look at this chart. A little bit loose, but it's got an upward progression to it. I want to look at tandem. Now this is what is known as a tight chart. So I'm going to go back to my filters. I'm sorry, I didn't go to the filters. I clicked on the designer. I'm going to go in here, go into my symbol. I'll edit the symbol. I'll type in TNDM. It isolates tandem. Then I'm going to the designer this time. I'll click on this. Because all of those historical files are opened, that is why this takes a little bit longer. Plus, I'm doing updating in the background. I want everything to be current. And if I click on this, bring this over, you can see that this one appeared 104 times. And it started appearing on 4/2. So let's take a look at this. Going back to 4/2. And that would be right there. Now, this is really, I better go to, let's do this, and I'll scroll back until we can see it. Look at this. I mean, I've seen this stock I don't know how many times and didn't do anything about it, which is my problem. Now this one has a lot of volume. Averages 2.7 million. And I said 4/2. That would be 4/2 right there. It's a relatively small body. Look how the group was coming down. Group started moving up. And this has one of those flags, transfer of ownership, which means it's really a battle between the bulls and the bears. Other than that, it doesn't tell you a whole lot. But it started appearing there, and then look what happened on the following day. But I do want to point out here, look at this light volume here, and then look at these volume spikes here, the volume crescendo. 3 big volume bars as money was starting to come into this stock. When you get a signal, if you see these volume bars that are a lot larger than the bars are preceding them, that means that there is some strong buying going on. And it appeared on the 3rd, the 4th, the 6th, the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, on and on. So on each of these days, when these effort to rise flags were appearing, those are all opportunities to get in because the volume remained really high. Look at the volume spike here. Now this is a blue bar because it closed where it opened. That's why it's blue, but volume remained pretty steady here. And then when it pulled back, notice how the volume fell off. It really didn't, and the stock really didn't fall that far. And then it just kept going. So let's go down this list And you can see that all throughout June, all throughout July, all throughout August, this stock kept appearing in this smart group. And there were multiple entry signals to get into this stock. Here, this right here. Pulled back a few days, look at the volume bar compared to the preceding volume bars on this effort to rise. A double signal. High volume up bar closing on the high indicates strength, effort to rise, bullish sign, and it took off. So I'm looking at this history with you because I'm just, first of all, well, primarily I just want to prove that these stocks have a tendency, once they get in here, to continue to appear. They will rotate out because some of them rotate out, others rotate in, which only makes sense because that combo is doing its job. So the arbitrary cutoff point is 100 stocks, but there are multiple opportunities to locate these stocks every day. All right, so let's go in to some of the scans now. Before I do that, though, let me do one more thing. This is really not a valid thing to do, but I'm just going to show you that let's just take, I'm just going to arbitrarily go to May 1st with the group performance analysis, and the group that I have selected is the leaders, is today's top 100, okay? Now you've seen that I have looked at stocks, several stocks whose history began the first part of the year. So I'm just going to go back a few months and let's see how this group of stocks has done. It's not a fair way to evaluate it. You really need to go back and get the start date for each one of these stocks to see how they've done. But I think we can get an idea here. If so the start date for this group is Tuesday, the 1st of May, running through Wednesday, 8/29, yesterday, equal dollar weighting. Look at this this craziness here. Of course, you have to be a great stock selector, and if we start looking at these stocks, oh, I'm sorry, I have a filter on. Let me take that filter. Well, here, this is what Tandem Diabetes has done since that date. It's up 435% by itself. And this is from May 1st. When did I say that this started appearing? April 2nd. So let's just run it out of curiosity from April 2nd. Up 721.89%. You know, we all talk about the market leaders and so on, but these stocks in this group and other groups potentially are the stocks that are on fire, and where you can really make a ton of money without being an Amazon and Apple and all the stocks that everybody is battling for, and all the computer-driven trades. Look at that number since it first started appearing here, and that is on Monday the 4th. Now I want to take this filter off, and I want to run the whole group, but I need to, let's go back to May 1st. And I'm just using May 1st because a lot of these stocks appeared before this, and a lot of them didn't, or some didn't. Now using that date, you can see that every stock has gained from that point, and the group as a whole is up by 89.28%, whereas the S&P is up 10.23%. Now, like I said, this is not a valid way to do this. I'm just doing it to give you some examples. But look over here, tandem diabetes is on top, and it's followed by BioLife Solutions and then Transcentric. But look at these numbers on some of these stocks just from the 1st of May. Now, of course, I would have to go back in and make sure that all these stocks were in that May 1st group, but I'm just using the stocks from today. Not a valid way to test, but it shows you an example or some examples of if you get on the right stock, you can make a lot of money in these stocks that are appearing in this group. Okay, so let's use this group. Well, first of all, I have to get to the group. I have to get to all securities, and I'll show you some of the ways that I'm going to suggest that you can prospect for these stocks. Now, I'm going to use the intraday views. The end of day and intraday views are essentially the same. And I'll just start up here under my stock prospecting. I like to use what I call the IR, or the impulse reaction scans, because this scan looks for stocks that are pulling back just slightly off of the highs, a day or two high. Now, here is the current price for AMRS, and when I bring this stock up today, and let me go to a different chart, this would be the high-low trigger. It would be chart number 3 on the intraday. Wherever one of these green lines appear, it just means that the stock has pulled back from the previous high. And if it trades up through that prior high, it's a buy or a potential buy. So that would be, here's 2 of the stocks. Okay, the first one, here's the second one. You can see that this pulled back slightly from the prior day's high, represented by each one of these green bars. If it trades up through that prior day high, you can have a buy stop in there. Here's one that is moving up nicely. Look at what number 3 is, tandem diabetes. It pulled back, and the buy point would have been right in here. This is one that I like to look at daily. I'm looking for trending stocks that are pulling back. The fan is in an uptrend. In other words, the 18 is above the 50, which is above the 100, which is above the 200. So there's a long-term fan on these stocks. You can see that fan. And I'm looking for pullbacks. So each line, green line, on different stocks here as I go through them, represents a potential buy point. Now I'm in a little too close, so it looks really jumbled here. But this is one of the views. Now this one here, same thing, except there has to be a bull VPA flag during the past 5 days. And then I look over here to see if there's a VPA signal. If it says yes, that means it happened yesterday. And then the description is right over here. So here is one. Let's see. Let's go up here to the top one. Wow, this one's up 25% today. Don't know what this is all about. But anyway, it had a no supply yesterday. It's represented by the 0. Must be a buyout. Don't know what happened there. But I look for the zeros, which indicates a VPA flag yesterday. So those are 2 of the views that I like to look at. Now the next 2 are bearish. The low pivot is a view that I came up with a few months ago, and this one works very well also. Okay, I screwed up here. I need to be in my group. Why didn't you point that out to me, Paul? Let's do this. Okay, I've got my 100 stocks. I'm going to make a group. I don't want caps there. Okay, so I'm in a group. I just made a group of 100 stocks here. Let's just quickly go back up here. I thought that list was awfully long, but anyway, it's the same principle. So here's Tandem Diabetes, here's IIN. You can see it pulled back slightly, but it's in a really nice uptrend, and then there is another buy signal on it today. VSTM, slight pullback and a chance to get in. Now these charts look a lot better, don't they, except for this one. Pull back 2 or 3 days, it can pull back. This one really isn't a buy yet, theoretically, the way I like to look at it, until it takes out the prior day's high. But that is a good one. Now here's the second one I looked at. It's the bull flag. You can see how this is really narrowed down. There's FNKO again. And it pulled back, and it met the buy requirement. So let's go down to the low pivot. Now the low pivot is based upon a stock establishing a low pivot. Now I'm going to change charts. I'm going to go from my number 3 chart down to my number 9 chart, which is unconfirmed pivot. And on this one, this would be a low pivot. These represent high pivots if you're looking for shorts. But this is a low pivot. You can see the pivot is established. And it would be in a buy mode right now because it took out the prior day's high. It doesn't look like it's doing much. Here's HIIQ, which really took off after earnings. I don't know how valid these earnings are. And I say that because if you look at the website and so on, history of this company, there's a lot of complaints about it. But here, just looking at this from a technical point of view, here is a low pivot. Look at this. It took off. Big gain. Here was a low pivot, but a buy was not established, nor was there a buy on this one. But this was a valid low pivot because the prior day's high was taken out. And this one is in a buy mode right now because the prior day's high was taken out. Okay, here's one core. It was a buy a couple of days later after the signal, and it's generated a low pivot again, and it is in a buy mode again. Now, Live Person, let's take a look at that. That's a name that is familiar. I almost bought this one today. It broke out, but it looks like it's being pulled back by the market now. But you can see that a lot of these low pivots turn into good trades. So that is another prospecting view that I like to use. And you're not going to find any counter trends on these stocks because they're all going up. So it would be views number 1, 2, and 5 in the impulse reaction scans. Now, going down to the next view, volume point of control. This is an indicator that was put into HGSI with the VPA flags, or when the VPA work was done. And if there is a 10-period volume point of control within a 3-day window, and here's the days since the signal fired, then they will appear in here. And this is a good way to catch some of these stocks. So this appeared 3 days ago. Let's just look at the stocks that appeared 3 days ago. Going down the list, this was 2 days ago, and this was yesterday. 0 was yesterday. So let's see how these stocks are holding up. So if I put my crosshair on, you're going to, if you look down here to the bottom, the volume point of control went from rose to green, and at the same time there was a pocket pivot. So this would have been a good trade on this. This is Boot Barn. Here's Ceres Corporation, number 2. Same thing happened down, whoops, sorry about that. Happened down here. Isn't going very far. So here are 3 in a row that have moved up with the volume point of control. This one has 2. It's pulled back. Egan pulled back today. Here's another one. MedPace. So down the list. Now let's look at some that fired today. Well, this one's down 30%. Something happened here, didn't it? It fired yesterday. I don't know if... no, it wasn't earnings. But sometimes you get caught. This is why you use stops, or this is why I use stops. But it did work. I mean, it was valid yesterday. It was valid back here. Look at this one. Oh, yeah, this is one of those marijuana stocks. Boy, those things have been hot, haven't they? Yeah, this is what happened. It's profit taking. These things are ridiculously overblown. But the thing is, it's interesting that this did get into the top 100 raw relative strength just because it's been moving up so quickly. Just out of curiosity, let's see when this one started appearing. So what I'll do is I'll go back in to my filters. CRON. I can use lowercase. Okay, and then I think I'm still in those groups. We'll find out. Okay, it started appearing on 8/24. So let's go to 8/24. So it didn't appear until here, but that's understandable because it took a while to build up that relative strength. And obviously you aren't going to chase a stock like this, or I'm not. But it is appearing in this group. Now, let's see, just out of curiosity tonight, why don't you look and see if it's still in the group or not. I imagine it probably still will be, but I'm not sure. But it's CRON. I just had to go and look to see when that appeared. Now let me get back to where I was. Okay, these have a fan up. This view has a 3-day window, but the fan isn't required. But notice that it doesn't change. So all of these are in the fan mode. So that's the only two VPOC you need to look at are number 1 and number 2. Then I like to look through the individual scans in the group. And you can see only one of them had a test for supply yesterday, 7 stars cloud group. And here's your test for supply. It really hasn't done much today. This is one that I looked at earlier. Bullish, no supply. There's live person again. And here is ARQL. So here's your no supply, and it is moving up slightly. Here it confirms return of strength, none there. Bullish up bar closing near the high. There's 3 stocks that appeared, and all 3 of them are up today. Now, with this group, as you can see, when I was going through this charts, you saw a lot of effort to rise flags. And with this group of stocks, the raw relative strength group, and by the way, you really need to create this user group every night to isolate it and then run these scans. But you need to pay attention to, especially to this effort to rise, because that indicates strong volume. And let's go back to just a number 4 chart here. It indicates strong volume, but on a stock like this, when you see these big volume spikes, that really distorts the volume. I do not like to clip the volume because I want to see where the big spikes were. Look at this right down here at the bottom. Can you tell me when big money was starting to come into this stock? Look at that volume spike. And it was an effort to rise, and this thing ran from $3 to over $6. Here's another volume spike, but it got a little overheated and it consolidated again. Now I'm going to try to zoom in on this enough to get rid of those bars so we can see the relative volume. And if you look at this bar right here on the effort to rise, these indicate that there is strength coming in to these stocks. So look for that. Move in, zoom in on your chart, look at the relative volume, and it shows you what's going on. Now let's look at Viking. Same thing, big volume spikes here. You can tell big money's coming into it. Back here, there was no effort to rise there, though. This is turned into be some profit taking and so on, and then it just bounced around. But like I said, pay attention to this effort to rise. Denbury Resources has been coming up since oil's been moving up again, and it's come up several times in this group. Effort to rise here, then a pullback. Here's another effort to rise, and it really hasn't looked back since then. Star Surgical, this has been a great stock. Going to zoom out a little bit on that. Here's an effort to rise. It never did challenge that candle, and it's been moving up. Here is an effort to rise. Guess what? The day before earnings gap here. Some immediate profit taking, but it held the gap. Looks like it got right down just to below the gap, and then it took off. Here was an effort to rise. Here's a no supply, and then an effort to rise. And it's just been moving up. NVCR. Look at the efforts to rise on heavy volume. When I was putting this together, this presentation, this is what really popped out at me. Why is this important? Because we know we have strong stocks and strong groups, or they wouldn't be in this list to begin with. And then if you're seeing an effort to rise, that's often a very good sign. Now this one didn't work out, obviously, today. It's at the top of the range. SEND, let's go down to number 6. And you can see that the group turned down today. I updated these groups earlier, and the group is turning down a little bit. Here's the nice combination flag here, a test, and then a confirmation of that test. Some people in the Skype group like to call it the J flag because Jay uses it a lot. Nice combination there, though. Anyway, pay attention to this effort to rise. No stopping volume. You'll rarely find stopping volume in here because these stocks are all pretty much strong. And then here's transfer of ownership, which is really a neutral signal. It means there's a lot of activity and high volume. You can see the high volume here, but it closes somewhere in the middle of the range, and then this stock just took off again. Look at the volume today, 469% above normal, so you can imagine what it was yesterday. Okay, so on those tests, I like the test, No supply confirms return in strength. Well, just run down through them. Down 1 through 5 in this group. And take a quick look at the charts. You're not going to have that many charts to look at. And don't look at the bearish, although some of them will appear on the bearish side too. If you're looking for potential shorts, fine. Now, this is just a scorecard which is going to show you all of the stocks in here. You can look for stocks with number 3, stocks bullish VPA flag today. I am in the user group that I created. All of these had a bullish flag today. And see if I can. And 82.35% of them are positive today. And I don't know what the market's doing. I'm going to take a quick look at my other computer. It's, well, it's down from where it was. And so, but these stocks are strong today. So they had a bullish VPA flag today, which is going to incorporate all the efforts to rise and test and everything. This is a catch-all view. Okay, now you can go to leaders up intraday on volume, but this requires 250,000 shares to be traded, so this is going to be a smaller group. I would just look at the scorecard bullish VPA flag today and apply it to the entire group if you want a quick look at everything. Now, I'm going to move down to my momentum scans. These are scans that I put in a while back. Some of these scans have been around for quite a while under Woodward and Brown, but this is an 85-85 scan. Now remember, this group of stocks, the raw relative strength and raw group, are based upon the relative strength of the stock and the group. And if you want stocks that have a rank, an EPS rank of 80 or above or 85 or above, you'll find them in here. So these stocks also have to have a strong earnings slope. So let's just bring this up here. Well, this slope isn't good, but you can see that these earnings have been increasing on a percentage basis recently. So the earnings or the EPS rank is based upon slope and standard deviation. Now I really can't, this one doesn't show it well, but it calculated well enough to be an 89 EPS. So if you only like to look at stocks that have a strong EPS rank, and look at this earnings growth on Denbury. I mean, I'm surprised this stock is a $5 stock. Of course, it trades 12 million shares a day. There's probably a huge float out there too. This one has a 99 EPS rank, and look at it move up the ladder. APPF. Okay, so that's 85-85. These stocks had trade at least, a lot of these filters I just left at 100,000 shares. And the reason I did that is because, you know, stocks like that ShotSpotter and so on come up. And I don't want to miss those stocks. These two require 250,000 shares. They're already up at least 100% over the last 12 months. If you, let's see if I have a column in here. I thought I had a column in here. If I don't, I'll put it in. That shows how much they were up over that time period. Anyway, I don't want to get bogged down on that. But these are all RS90 stocks. This does not have the requirement of being up at least 100%. This is speculative momentum, $15 or less up 100% in a year. So some cheap stocks that are really strong that are keep going. You can use any of these momentum scans. If you're looking for momentum scans with rising earnings estimates for the current quarter come down to this view right here, it's going to pull them up. There's tandem diabetes. And this one's in a fan uptrend. Let's look at this. This information, you can see the current quarter estimate right here. It's going to be up 88.03% estimated compared to the same quarter. It would be the third quarter last year. So strong earnings growth is projected. Anyway, let's look at one more thing. This is one that I put in last week, accumulation acceleration. This is a filter that I built some time back, and I decided to include it. I'm requiring that the stocks be up for the day intraday on this, but it is showing that the accumulation is increasing on these stocks. And if you bring up the stock, and then if you go down to you can go to basic end of day or intraday and go into the visual filter back test and click on chart number 3, it is a trend chart. But whenever these green bars appear up here, it tells you that accumulation is increasing, and that's based upon the accumulation lines going up here and the acceleration going up. This line up here represents the AD, or the accumulation number. So this is A accumulation, this is B, this is C, and so on. It got down to D right here as it dropped down, and then it turned to C, and it generated green volume bars over here as these lines moved up. Now, I want to point out one more thing on this chart. On the board the other day, Marilyn, I think, was asking what these colors represent. They don't represent anything to do with VPA signals. They represent the trend. If you go into the current view, and if I click on volume price analysis, notice that I have selected draw price indicator using VSA colors, and it's a trend colored price indicator. Most of mine are no price indicator, and then I just add the VPA flags, but this will show you the trend, and that trend is shown right here. So if you look over here, the best fit long trend is up, medium is up, and short is up based upon this green color. Now when I click on blue, notice the long-term trend was up, medium was down, and the short was up. If it's on orange, it's up for long-term, medium, and short down. If you go to red, it means they're all down. So this gives you a visual of the trend, which can be helpful visually. So that is located under Visual Filter Backtest, chart number 3. I don't know if you'll ever use it or not. Here's another of the pivot charts, and then this is just another VFB chart, which I'll show you some other time. I don't use it that much. So that's about it. I just wanted to show you that this group of stocks is a very good group to prospect with, and I want you to start playing with it. I want you to make a group every night, and then just apply some of these views against it. You don't have to go through all of these that I did, but I would certainly look at the VPOX and the low pivot, and I would look at the I've said VPOX, I meant IR and VPOX, and the individual scans. Well, Tom, you know how to create a group, don't you? I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going back to all securities. This is updating. So it's okay. And then I'm going to go. Let's assume that it's the end of the day. All right. And you're going to go into your momentum scans and you're going to pick number 12 and you're in all securities. I use the alternate G keys, but you can also do it by go up here, make group from list. I'll just call this test. It's going to put these 100 stocks into a group. You can generate an index if you want. But here's my group. Here's my test group. I wouldn't call it that. But let's just look at the, let's see if I can find this. Here's the index of this group of stocks. Now, this really isn't a valid index because these stocks come and go. But as you saw, as I did this, a lot of these stocks stay in this list. But you can see that there is a lot of strength in this group of 100 stocks. That's about it. We've gone a little over an hour. By the way, I'm going to be gone next week. I'm going to take a week's vacation, so I won't be around. But we're going to go up into the mountains in Wyoming. I should have internet access to update the groups. If not, we may miss a day or two, but that's really not that big a deal. Earnings season is pretty much over, but I will update them if I can. We were going to go to Yellowstone, but unfortunately the people we were going to meet, one of them became ill, so we're going to just shorten our trip. But hopefully I'll be able to update everything. Carrie says, why wouldn't Marilyn, it's generated for you. That's what number 11 does. Is that what you mean? It's generated for you every day. That's why I'm using it. Right here. It goes directly to the smart group. Carrie, what's your question? Well, Carrie, we're using the top 100 from the Oh, yeah, you can use it rather than making your own group. Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. You can use that. I prefer to make my own group just because I can, why go look for it? But you can, yeah. What he's asking is, why not when I send this out every day? Top 100 raw. Yeah, the group is created right here. It's the same if you want to use it. That's fine. But let me show you one other trick. The reason let me see if I have created this. I probably make it too complicated myself sometimes. Okay, see this raw relative strength. Okay, where am I right here? Okay, here's my 100 stocks. I'm going into the designer. Let's say that I am just keeping a group of these stocks here. I'll use raw relative strength group. Let's say this is from yesterday. I would just edit the group. select all, remove them. Okay, so I have an empty group now. Now if I'm in here in this group, I could choose append to group, raw relative strength group, number of securities, and then 100 securities were added to that group that I just emptied. So I can have the fresh group right down here without going in and looking for it. That's just something I can do, but do whatever you want to do, whatever's simplest. Yes, you can you can go in here, but remember, you're not going to get my groups until the following day, Carrie. So if you want to do this at night, I would suggest there's one of two things you can do. There's one of two things you could do. You could make your own group, or just go into the designer after you run your update. Go into Woodward and Brown and find the group. Combos sticking out here, and drag it down to the user group, and then it's right here. That's what I did last night. You can do it either way, and then that way you can work with it. Does that make sense? Okay, just do that then. Whatever's simpler. I probably make it too complicated myself sometimes, but I'm just used to doing it a certain way. So what do you think of that process, just using this as a group to look for potential trades? I think you'll like it, and I think if we start paying attention to this, we can really find some winners. This is something I just, it's been here all along, but I really just thought about applying this in this manner last week, I guess. And I think it'll be really good for us. Anyway, I'm going to end this, and I'll be gone next week, but the week after that we'll do another webinar, and we'll concentrate on some other technique at that point. Ultimately, what I would like to do is bring these things together and maybe do another webinar series starting in October with using all these techniques, and at the same time selecting stocks and so on. So that's my ultimate goal, and we'll just have a few techniques that we'll work with, and hopefully they'll be very good techniques. All right, well, thank you, and I'll be around tomorrow, but I'll be gone all of next week. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye now. Good, Corinne, thanks. Welcome back. Is it Corinne? Okay, Corinne, welcome back to HGSI. Bye for now.